Hello, everyone. Great to have you join me for another edition of Mining Indaba's Voices of Disruption's Digital Diaries. Today, I'm joined by one of Mining Indaba's most loyal and long-standing supporters, who is also the international representative for our Executive Advisory Board, Tony Carroll. Tony is well connected in the African mining space and has a strong network of government relationships, and will touch on some important points in relation to this. Tony, it's so good to have you join me.
No, it's great to be here, and I'm excited about the 30th anniversary of the Mining Indaba.
Fantastic. So, Tony, we're talking about governments, and I want to start with contextualizing something. We have a situation where, on the one hand, Africa is looking to gain greater economic wealth from its critical mineral resources through downstream beneficiation and manufacturing. And on the other hand, global powerhouses like the United States are looking to secure supply for their own just energy transition needs. Tony, how do both territories benefit equally and support each other to reach their objectives?
Well, I think there has to come out of a win-win situation, a straightforward acknowledgement that they have interests, each have interest in securing these supplies and also benefiting the country more profoundly than has been in the past in many jurisdictions and mining jurisdictions. So I think, first of all, we have to start on a good faith principles that we're trying to find a solution to both of our problems, to create more value and more jobs in the countries in which these resources are located. On the other hand, securing these supplies for the future use, industrial use by countries such as the United States.
Thanks, Tony. Win-win for all. I think both parties take it from that viewpoint, we definitely will succeed. Appreciate your response on that, Tony. So Africa has so much potential to become a leader in mineral supply across the board. And for countries that have less developed mining sectors, what steps do you believe government should be taking now to develop successful mining economies as quickly as possible?
Well, I think one of the areas that Africa can step forward in some of these countries which are perhaps less endowed is in the development of infrastructure, supportive infrastructure, power supply, rail and road infrastructure certainly are going to be areas that can benefit a whole slew of countries that aren't necessarily specific mining jurisdictions. I think the other thing is that countries can learn the lessons from some of the better performing jurisdictions in Africa and elsewhere in terms of modernizing their mining laws and regulations to develop a capacity to undertake analyses of these mineral resources. To be able to manage the development of these resources takes human capacity as well. And I think investing in human capacity will be an important step forward. So combination of physical infrastructure, supportive infrastructure, and investment in human capacity, and then modernizing laws and regulations.
Oh, great input there, Tony. And I think that shows the need for governments to work together for the collective betterment of Africa. The other component to that is governments working with industry for the betterment of their mining industries. How can we foster improved collaboration between government and industry?
Well, I remember 30 years ago when I first started coming to these events, there was a really contentious relationship between the mining industry and its organizations and associations and governments. I think a lot of it, we've evolved quite a ways since then. There's a much greater understanding, maybe not in all 54 African countries, but in many of the leading African mining jurisdictions, you're finding a much more collaborative relationship between industry and industry associations and governments. And this takes faith, and it takes patience, and it takes time. But I think we're seeing a real evolution, if you would, of a greater understanding of each different party's respective needs and interests.
It's fantastic, Tony, and good to hear that you feel such great progress is being made, and that with time and patience, it will only improve. And Mining Indaba definitely aims to help facilitate that. So brilliant on that front, Tony. As you know, and I want to round up our short conversation, Mining Indaba's 2024 theme is about embracing the power of positive disruption. So, Tony, from a government context, both locally and internationally, what does positive disruption look like to you?
Well, I think one of the areas as I contemplate this discussion or this topic is that, we're now much more empowered with a greater data capability, data analytical capability. I think one of the things that we could probably invest in is in government's ability of being able to analyze the resources they have. And that goes from the whole cycle of doing seismic surveys to the analysis of data to the packaging of that data in a manner that looks a lot more commercially viable than has been in the past. So we could take advantage of some of the powers that have evolved or developed in the last few years in terms of data analytics. I think we also have to start looking at deeper partnerships, and I think governments, both on our side and the African side, have to understand risk a little bit more. Mining is a risky business, and it's also a very long-term business. And I think sometimes there are unrealistic expectations that the rewards will be coming much quicker. It's going to take some patience, it's going to take some time, but I think we have to have a better understanding of each side of the equation, that this is a risky business, and that sometimes we're going to have to extend ourselves a little bit further than might otherwise be comfortable in being able to appreciate and take on some of that risk. So it's a step forward for both the industry and for governments to move forward and embrace this sort of natural risk business, but be able to both ends of this equation profit.
Oh, Tony, thank you for the transparency on that response there. Couldn't agree with you more, and definitely touching on that risk and trying to encourage governments to embrace it for the betterment of what they're trying to do is definitely what Mining Indaba will facilitate in 2024. So Tony, it's been a short discussion, but really insightful one. I really appreciate your views and taking the time to chat to me and sharing some of those insights with the Mining Indaba audience.
And we'll see you all in February. Thanks so much.
Fantastic, Tony. Thanks a lot. Cheers.
Bye.